His Holiness, dignitaries on the dais, esteemed members of the SOPHIA Society, congregation, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I am thankful to the SOPHIA Society and the Metropolitan of the Delhi Diocese, Dr. Youhanon Mar Demetrios, and also Father Saji Abraham and others in the congregation for inviting me to speak here. I had come down with a seasonal flu a couple of days ago. It was Father Saji's prayers that have enabled me to recover enough to be present here this evening. I am grateful to him for this. Since I still have a bad cough, I will try and contain my talk to its bare essential core. I'm particularly grateful to my friend Dr. Mathews, whose yeoman work as a medical practitioner I have always held in the highest esteem. Dr. Mathews was the one who called me, especially a few months back, and prepared the ground in advance for me to accept this invitation. I am also grateful to Dr. Jayashree Mathur, who has been a dear friend, peer, sibling, and a close colleague to me for the past more than 30 years. It was from Jayashree that I had first heard about Dr. Paulos Mar Gregorios. Through the ongoing conversations between Dr. Mathur and me, I had developed a sense of who Father Gregorios really was. Jayashree always referred to him as Father Gregorios. I learned through those conversations about this extraordinary man, this eclectic mind, the polyglot, the polymath, about the enormous significance of his thoughts, writings, and works held in the context of the world, trying desperately to find its own moorings. My assignment here on this occasion as a keynote speaker is to place today's event in a context, articulating the significance of the life and works that are celebrated today and juxtaposing this with the philosophical positions that Dr. Paulos Mar Gregorios used to locate himself in through his many pieces of written and spoken word. In so doing, inevitably, I would take on the perspective of a practitioner of higher education, which has been my profession and vocation for the past more than 40 years. The Dr. Paulos Mar Gregorios Award is intrinsically distinguished by the fact that it has been established in the name of a religious leader of the stature of Dr. Paulos Mar Gregorios, PMG for short. As a theologian and a philosopher, PMG had transcended institutional structures and canons and had moved into a space where he could see God's work as it exists in various spaces and contexts without the mediation of structures, rituals, and institutions. PMG, no doubt, was deeply revered within his own congregation, but what is equally important is to acknowledge that he was highly respected and listened to with the utmost seriousness by those from other denominations and religious beliefs, as well as from atheists and agnostics. PMG could empathize and comprehend multiple alternative perspectives in which to make sense of the connectedness between the humans and other forms of life, connectedness with the planet Earth, and indeed the ineffable beauty of the cosmos. He could see the manifestations of the divine in all these, and more so in the web of their interconnectedness. In addition to being a man of religion, Dr. Paulos Mar Gregorios was also a statesman and a man of peace. He made important overtures to world leaders at the peak of the Cold War in the 1980s and early 90s particularly, and attempted to build bridges between the warring perspectives. His contributions were deeply acknowledged and highly valued by members of his own congregation, as well as by philosophers, academics, theologians, changemakers, and statesmen. More important, he reached out so effectively to the laity, to the ordinary people and to the youth who struggled to make sense of the challenges of living a righteous and constructive life in a complex social and political ethos. The institution of the Paulos Mar Gregorios Award has now acquired a stature of its own, also because of its track record. The array of the past awardees constitutes a galaxy of distinguished individuals who have made indelible mark in their service to humankind. A global symbol of peace, His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama was the first recipient of the award. This, in fact, set a great benchmark to live up to for the award as an institution. His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama was a friend and co-traveler of Dr. Paulos Mar Gregorios. The inaugural award to the Dalai Lama was followed by successive awards celebrating the lives and works of a whole spectrum of leaders of humanity who have rendered exceptional contributions. P.K. Warrior and Baba Amte were both healers par excellence. Varghese Kurian, Aruna Roy, and Sonam Wangchuk were those who took up transformative social action as their arena of work. And Karan Singh was a rare personality who combined successfully in his life statesmanship, diplomacy, culture, and politics to build a context for sustainable peace. The pattern underlying the selection of successive recipients of the Paulos Mar Gregorios Award over the past about 3 decades reveals a certain philosophy and vision underlying the institution of the award. It is undoubtedly a vision about what effective leadership is all about. It is about celebrating lives that have demonstrated the inherent transformative possibilities underlying deployment of the power of leadership to enable and empower the powerless and the voiceless. Dr. Tessy Thomas, the recipient of the Paulos Mar Gregorios Award, the 8th award in 2025, has been selected for the award for her outstanding contributions to women's empowerment. She is among the few women who have succeeded in breaking the glass ceiling to reach the levels of leadership in a highly male-dominated institutional and professional space. Let me congratulate Dr. Tessy Thomas for the struggle that she has put up to accomplish this remarkable achievement. The proportion of women in STEM research in India is about 18%. The corresponding proportion in the defense research sector is merely 12 to 15%. For a woman to break the glass ceiling and to rise to a leadership level, she will have to be exceptionally brilliant and devoted to her work. That's what makes Dr. Tessy's work that much more inspirational. Institutions like ISRO, DRDO, and BARC have a history of promoting self-reliance through their research pursuits. These institutions have had an enlightened leadership right from their early years. There are 3 characteristics in these institutions, the credit for which can be attributed in good measure to the enlightened leadership that guided these institutions in their initial years. 1, there is a remarkable diversity in their personnel. These institutions demonstrate presence of women, people from all communities and social groups. Second, these institutions have given opportunities to graduates of science and engineering from non-elite institutions to pursue a career in research. Because of these reasons, the demographics of these institutions are truly remarkable. A third aspect of these institutions that needs to be appreciated is that they function in relative isolation from the rest of the world for strategic reasons of self-reliance and emphasis on indigenous technology. In the process, the scientists who choose to work in such institutions forgo the possibilities of working in highly resourced institutional spaces in the private sector or institutions abroad. Thus, those who choose to work in these strategically critical institutions incur an enormous opportunity cost in terms of earnings. This fact goes often mostly unacknowledged. In spite of the diversity in the demographics, the field of research in defense establishments remains largely male-dominated. There are many reasons for this. One of the reasons is the compulsions of women, the compulsions that women have to put up with in terms of expectations of attending to domesticity, and raising a family along with their devotion to their research profession. If we were to celebrate the work of a man in any profession, we do not even for a moment think about the opportunity cost that his undivided devotion to his profession has incurred in terms of his suboptimal presence from his responsibilities as a family man, a husband, a father, and so on. Whereas for a woman, the irony is that these are important constraints to negotiate with, even in this 21st century. That's why when a woman does exceptionally well in her field, this aspect needs to be brought to the forefront and celebrated. That she has demonstrated that it is possible to minimize the opportunity cost by being deeply conscientious, sensitive, and super efficient. The life and professional career of Dr. Tessy Thomas is truly inspirational to in the sense that she has been able to accomplish this rare feat of establishing a healthy balance between work and life. In my concluding session, I will invoke Dr. Paulos Mar Gregorios fleetingly to make sense of the kind of research that Dr. Tessy is celebrated here today for. On today's occasion, PMG would have reminded us, among other things, of the moral dilemma that scientists working in the area of warfare would experience. Based on my limited understanding of the thoughts of Dr. Paulos Mar Gregorios, I would put forth the following proposition. My proposition is that the very moral and humanistic assumption behind research towards development of weapons and weapon delivery systems, particularly those with enormous destructive potential, is that their very existence will render their deployment unnecessary. This is apparently a self-negating statement because the very existence of these weapons would render its deployment unnecessary. But to my mind, this is the only way to make sense of the complexity underlying the pursuit of new knowledge and possibility of its deployment to aid anything other than peace and well-being. The larger cause undoubtedly is peace. For a nation espousing world peace and universal well-being, deterrence is the only conceivable motive there can ever be behind demonstrating military capability of any kind. This should be the central perspective that should inform our philosophy, our understanding, our policy, and our practice. I will end by recalling here what I have always been telling the young PhD scholars in the universities where I have been teacher, dean, or vice-chancellor. I tell them always, remember that only a minuscule of the age-specific population to which you belong ever get an opportunity to participate in generating new knowledge and technologies through research. Please always keep uppermost in your mind that your inquiries are on behalf of countless others who do not have the training, resources, or opportunities that you have been fortunate to have. Therefore, try and formulate your research questions on their behalf. Try and speak for the voiceless. Let your research give voice to the voiceless. With that, let me on your behalf once again congratulate Dr. Tessy Thomas and wish all the very best. I also wish the institution of the Paulos Mar Gregorios Award a long and successful life in pursuit of the ideals that Dr. Paulos Mar Gregorios stood for. Thank you.